Hello and welcome to this short explanation about quantitative methods in sociological research. So when we look at quantitative methods in sociological research, we need to consider several key things for any type of methods. So we're going to be discussing issues like practical factors, ethical factors, representativeness, generalisability, reliability and validity. So those are known as PERRVG, P-E-R-R-V-G. Practical, ethical, representativeness, generalisable, reliability, validity. We need to be aware of those concepts. And those concepts need to be understood in relation to quantitative methods, qualitative methods and mixed methods. We also need to understand the methodologies in research. In year one, we tend to focus on positivism and interpretivism. And in year two, it's possible to look at positivism and interpretivism, feminism and realism. I'm going to be focusing mainly on the old specification for OCR, which is H181 and H581, H581 for A2. But this also relates to the retakes for AS Unit G671. So this is going to be helpful for G674, social inequality and difference with the research methods element, 15 and 25 mark questions. But it is very useful for a range of discussions beyond that particular exam. So looking at quantitative methods, we can talk about the fact that quantitative methods offer numerical data, numbers and figures. We can talk about the fact that quantitative numerical statistical data is seen as having strengths in terms of practical advantages. It's easier to access this type of and collect this type of data. It's less costly and time consuming to accrue this type of data. Ethically, it may offer ethical advantages because it probably may involve less problems in terms of harm, intrusion, involvement with people's lives, because you can observe and gather statistics without necessarily being involved in people's lives. And representativeness and generalisability, it's likely you can get larger sample size. It's likely you can get a better cross-section of a range of groups within the whole target population and improve the extent to which your whole sample has typical numbers of people, typical proportions in terms of social characteristics. This makes it easier to generalise the results, so to apply the results on a wider scale to the whole target population. So we have to look at reliability. Generally, it's argued that they have higher reliability. Quantitative methods, it's easier to repeat the results from such methods because they often have a systematic, standardised collection of results, and it's less influenced by the researcher's skills in conducting the research as much as by the design of the research and making sure that the same questions in the same order, it's easier to check and find replicability, which makes the data more valid and accurate if you're finding consistent sets of results, and it's easier to repeat the information. From a positivist perspective, they would argue that it's got more accuracy because it's more reliable data. With quantitative methods, we look at questionnaires, structured interviews, semi-structured interviews, statistical data and content analysis. With all of these, you need to be aware of the range of issues because if you have a question on one area relating to quantitative methods, it could be on one of the research tools, which is those that are listed like questionnaires and so on. You also need to be aware of the issues of objectivity, obviously reliability, value freedom, scientific, cause and effect relationships, patterns and trends, those kinds of issues which could be asked in a question as part of this general approach. One key word as well that comes in here, as well as value, freedom and objectivity, is operationalization. So operationalization, breaking concepts down into a measurable form, is especially advantageous or worth doing, according to positivists, because you need to have a precise measurement and numerical numbers of particular factors. So what you're doing is you're simplifying what are complex areas, like the family, or religiosity, or sexism, or social class, and you're breaking down those concepts or wider areas into a more easily measurable and quantifiable form. So for example, with religiosity, you break it down into measurable variables or factors. So to measure the concept, to measure religiosity as a concept, for understanding just generally someone's level of religiosity, you've got to break it down into smaller categories, which we call indicators, because they indicate someone's level of religiosity in this case. So for example, prayer, attendance, worship, dress code, beliefs, and so on. That's how you measure religiosity. Those are the indicators for how religious someone is. So if they pray, they worship, they go to the place of worship, they attend, they wear the clothes that fit in with the norms as part of the moral code of the belief system of the religion. You have the beliefs in terms of the deity, etc., etc. So that would indicate that person is very religious. Same for poverty. So you might say, someone is in poverty. So we define that based on the concept of absolute poverty. If we say a lack of physical, material resources that are necessary for survival in biological terms. But then we could say that's still a problematic definition. We need to use the concept of relative poverty, so the extent to which someone is unable to participate in normal life, which is based on the culture of society. For example, having carpeted floors, having a fridge, and so on. Not necessary for survival, necessary for normal participation in cultural and social life. So you can see that operationalization is seen as providing